Oh, hello. This is Tina from the future. And I just wanted to tell you that if you are here watching this video, you have either seen my thumbnail with this beautiful stocking with Dobby the house elf on it, or you have bought my pattern off of Ravelry that looks like a vintage knit inspired stocking like this. So if you're here trying to replicate this one, there's certain parts of this video that you may not need, like how to create a chart. And even if you are doing this one that I already have, because I do plan to add this chart to that pattern, then again, you may not need that part of how to make the chart. You also may decide you just want to do a simple plain stocking and you don't want to even follow the chart, so then you wouldn't even need that part. And you may also not want to hear the history behind why I created this pattern. So if any of these things are you, then feel free to skip ahead to the part that you want to see, because I do plan to put timestamps into this. So now back to your regularly scheduled program. Hello everyone, this is Tina from Tina's Workshop, and this week for our Christmas in July, we are going to be working on one of my own patterns for a crocheted Christmas stocking. When I was little, when I was born, I was given a stocking that was done by, I say my grandma Jean. She was actually my uncle's mom, but she treated me the same as my cousins. She was another grandma for me. And she would knit stockings for the family. Well, she did my stocking just like this with the Santa, and my Santa face had Angora on it. It was super fuzzy, and it has the tree on the back and name and birth year on it. Well, years ago, in between different moves and stuff, my stocking got lost. I've never been able to find it. We kept hoping we'd come across it somewhere. Never did. But I wanted to carry on her tradition after she had passed away. She made a stocking for, hold on. So she made a stocking for my husband. That's the center stocking here. She made one for my oldest son, the one I was just showing you, the red one. The white one with the bear here was for my youngest son. Then the stocking that I created from that, I created this blue one for my sister-in-law, which I'll show you in a second. And I always wanted to have that same pattern. I wanted to recreate that original stocking I had. And now that I have the pattern, I haven't decided for sure if I want to or not, because it was one she'd specially made for me. So this green one with the truck is my current stocking that I made for myself, and this is another one of my patterns. So I just haven't, because it was something she had done specially for me. So I don't know, and I guess part of me was always hoping we'd find it again, but after my mom passed away and we cleared out all her stuff, we never did find it. So don't know, it's somewhere in the universe. But anyway, she had done my son's the exact same style she had done mine, and I always loved the way it looked. And if you looked for Christmas stockings that were crocheted, you couldn't find ones. And I learned to crochet when I was 8, and I actually learned to knit 20 years ago now, specifically because I wanted to be able to do this. But before I was a proficient knitter, not saying I'm really good yet, but before I was a proficient knitter, I wanted to be able to still do this, but do this with crochet. So I started developing my own pattern, and my pattern has evolved over the years. So there is a base pattern. My original one I did was completely to mimic this one, but out of that there's a base pattern that can be changed up with different images. So this is the one I did for my sister-in-law. And I put an extra little stocking on the back. It's got a little story in there but you can see they're nice big stockings. It's one thing I really like, and you could actually go up a hook size if you wanted to and make it just a little bit bigger, but they're a nice big stocking, and you can change the length here a little bit if you want to. But I just love the way they look, and I love how this has that nice vintage style, this vintage look that most crochet stockings do not have. So let's see. If we go back to my screen here, so these are the ones that she originally had done. So these are all knit. And then this is one I have actually, these are a couple other ones I have knit from that same pattern. Okay, so this is the first one that I crocheted when I first started designing this. And I used a pipsqueak yarn, which was super fuzzy on the beard and the hat, and I think it was too fuzzy. I was trying to recreate that Angora fuzzy feel I had in mind, but that one was just way too fuzzy. And I did not have the lines in this one. Then so this was the third one I had actually done, and you can see this one I did the regular yarn in it. I had actually done, I think I had a sparkle that was up in the hat part, and the red was sparkly for the hat. I do like the way this one looked better though. I think if you were actually using wool and you did an Angora, that would be really nice. Again, this one does not have the lines in it. This one, when I did this was actually, I think this was the second one I did because I was still using the pipsqueak yarn here. And I added the little lines in as an afterthought. And I did like the way this one, you know, I liked the lines, but I continued to work on this and change it up until I got something that I liked. Well, once I did that, I started changing my graph and changing my pattern, so it wasn't always the Santa and the Christmas tree. I like doing the name and the year the person's born on it, and I love the jingle bells, of course, with the little diamonds. So this one has the stripes that are actually color worked in with this angel. I love how this one came out. This one I did, and I used my base stocking pattern with the stripes at the top, and then I did an applique piece on the top, and this is actually the elephant is by Nella's Cottage. This one was a recent one I did for my great niece, and she likes Rapunzel, so I had done the base stocking and then did the other pieces added on afterwards, and I think it came out really cute. This one, again, my base pattern, and I just changed up my grid, my coloring pattern, and did the teddy bear. This was, again, to have a vintage look. I love these little buttons, and I like to put them on the ones that I make for family. And if you wonder what the Tina Wells 143 is on the top, that is my Instagram page from before I started my YouTube page. This is a much older one I did. This was still back when I had first started creating this pattern and was still getting the hang of how it was and how I was doing it. And I tried to put the name and the year on one side with this big wide piece. I don't really care for the way that looked, but this was for my nephew and my great nephew. And so my nephew loves Star Wars, so I did the old school Star Wars on him and the new school for his son. I did this one for my niece. She loves Beauty and the Beast. So again, I did the base stocking. I did this little ruffle at the top, and the rose and everything was all done afterwards, three-dimensionally on it. And this entire stocking was done with a sparkle yarn, every bit of it, so it really sparkles. This is the one I was showing you I did for my sister-in-law. And this one's almost all sparkly. There's like the hay and stuff is not, but most of that stocking is sparkle. And there's a number of these, you can see the little threads and stuff I added in afterwards, and some other little bits to create more of a look. So it doesn't all have to be color work. So then there was a Harry Potter set I was doing. And this was the first one I did for the first child with Hedwig. Oh, I guess I didn't have those in order. We will be back to that one. This was another one I did for another great niece. My niece had wanted a vintage one that reminded her of the one she had when she was young. So that was kind of fun. Okay, back to the Harry Potter one. So this was the one I did for the second child. And I did Quidditch with the snitch. And this was all done afterwards. So you've got the lines and the diamonds that were color worked, but then the Quidditch goals and the snitch were done on top. This was another one where I did the image on top afterwards. This one was color worked, and there was a few bits that were done on top afterwards. This is with once the name was in it. Because when I initially did the stocking, the baby hadn't been born and they had not decided on a name yet. This was another one I had done for an order for somebody, and they wanted a teddy bear sheriff. So this was done on top. So for the one we're going to do today, it is going to be the base stocking pattern, but it is going to be the third in the Harry Potter series. And this one, with the parents and I have decided this one is going to have Dobby on it. Dobby is not exactly the easiest character to try and figure this out on, so I'm challenging myself here. But I have this cute little guy that I was given because I do love Dobby. Dobby is he's like one of the best characters. But this one I kind of like because it has a very basic shape to it. So I'm going to use this, but then also go back and forth to figure out my pattern. So I'm going to show you how I create my grid for the main part of the stocking, and then we will actually go through the stocking. So and then I do have the pattern listed on my Ravelry, and I will link that below. And the pattern has your base stocking, but it also has the one for the Christmas tree and the Santa. So this is going to show you, though, there's two different ways that you could create your own pattern, your own image to go onto this stocking. Or you can just do the base one and do an applique on top, or leave it plain. It looks pretty any way you look at it. So I am going to take you to tabletop and we're going to work on this. Okay, so you can do this by hand. So if you're someone who still likes to do everything with pen and paper or pencil and paper, you can do that. And this is how I do some of them. And that's how I'm going to do this one. But you can also do it online, but now if you're a little bit more on the techie side and you like to do things that way, then you can go on to a website called stitchfiddle.com, and they have a subscription you can do, but you can also do a free page. A free page basically limits you in some senses, just like anything else. And I occasionally will actually buy it depending on what I'm doing and how much I'm doing, but most of the time the free page is enough for me. And you can see all the different grids I've worked on here. Some of these you will actually recognize. So here's the one, the main one that you've seen. And this is the grid that I've done. And I do a 50 across, and I do 68 down. And that's going to give you the front and the back. And then depending on the way you want your stocking to go, if you want it to curve left or right, then you can decide where you want to put the name and things like that. Here is, well, let's see. Here is the one I did for my sister-in-law's for the major. And you can see how the grid looks here, and then you can see here the extra bits that I put onto it. So, and there is, let's see if you can see it. You can see there's a little, I put some little bit of markings just to give you the hint of the eyes being asleep. But those different little parts, there's one stitch that's actually down here, and there's a stitch here and here, but then I added a little extra yellow. So that can all go on top. The name, that I do on top. You could color work it in, but I tend to do the name on top. And I've done it different ways. This one I actually did like a slip stitch into. A lot of times though, I just stitch them on. So then you can see there's the head wig, there was the angel, there's some on here that I had done up, like this blue one with the snowman that I haven't actually done yet, and then some of these grids are for other things that I've done. But if you go into here, you can see on the left hand side the different colors, and you can add and subtract and rename your colors and things like that. You can add and subtract your rows, and then you just go in here and you click on the different squares that you want to add, and they actually have different charts and stuff where you can put an image in and then have it create the chart from your image, and then you can go in and edit from that. So there's a lot of different ways you can do that on Stitch Fiddle. That you can do corner to corner, you can do left to right or right to left and up and down. And on the free account you have a max of 15 charts, which I currently have 15. So if I want to make more, I either have to delete or I have to pay, which it's like $4.99 a month. It's not that much. So if I were doing more charts all the time, then I would do that. But for this one, and not because I don't have any more charts, but because I wanted to do this one on paper, I have this nice it's just a notebook. This is the way it looks on the front. It has a large enough space that I can work nicely. I have another one that I've used for quite a while, and actually I used this one when I did the R2D2 and the BB-8. Somewhere in here. There. So when I did R2D2 and BB-8, I did them in here. So it'll work, but I could only do the like half size, and this was when I was still working on that pattern, and that one was actually a narrower width. So this I had only done 21 across, and I actually do 25 across per side now, so it's a total of 50. But this book has more on it. It does not go all the way to 68, but generally my leg goes to 68, but I usually don't have the image come down that far. So I can go through this with colored pencils and do it. I can do it with a straight pencil. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll draw out lightly the image and then go back and shade in my section. So I know I'm going to do the line across here like I always do. And I generally do, I think it's, let's see, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that's what I thought. I generally do 8 in between. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's bring you down closer as I start counting. Bring my light down closer too. Okay, so the second line is going to be a line. Then I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is all going to stay a different color. Then I'm going to do another line across here. So the name is going to be up in this section. Then I do my little diamonds, and I do that. I start with them being 5 across. So first I'm going to have a plain line, and then I will have 5 across. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because we're at 25, so we're divisible that way. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my diamond's going to actually be this one here. So the next one is 3. 1, 2, 3. So we are going to be doing there. So we're going in by 1. And then this last one is going to only be 1. So where are we at? Right here. 1, 2. And then this next row is going to be a different color. So you can see our diamond points are like this. And if you want to, you can take and add an extra little pop of color like I did on this one. You can see I put that little green dot that just added an extra little definition. Again, this whole thing is up to you. And at the bottom of these points is where I put the jingle bells. Now you end up with 3 points on one side of the stocking and 2 points on the other side of the stocking. I generally like to put the 3 points on the front of the stocking with the 2 points on the back of the stocking. That's just my preference. I also tend to point my stockings, the toes, to the left. But I have actually had people request them point to the right. So this is then our top section, which then leaves the space below to work on our image. So we're going to do the same type of thing. We're just going to lightly sketch out. What I'm thinking about doing on this one is having, because I don't want too much detail, because I only have 25. I only have 25 stitches, 25 blocks to work with here. So you've got to have basic shapes, and I can do some extra on top afterwards. So I'm going to probably do the basic outline shape in the color work, and then I'll go back in and add details on it afterwards. So what I'm thinking is putting his face, and then I kind of want, because I think it would be fun to put the little sock that he's holding, you know, because Master's knitted Dobby a sock, And I'm thinking about doing the sock, instead of being the black sock from the movie, I'm thinking about doing a red and green sock. And I'm thinking about having the sock be three-dimensional, so the hand will come out and be holding the sock. That's my idea. So that's what I'm going to do. What I'll continue to kind of sketch out exactly what I want, then start working the squares. So you can see, like here, if I'm trying to make a circle, then I'll start deciding which ones should be filled in to create that shape. And if I really want a perfect circle, either do it on top, or afterwards I can go back in and create a line, an outline, and stitch it. And then once we have our pattern, or our grid, then we can start our pattern. So I'm going to work on the pattern, and when I am finished, I will come back and show it to you, and then we will start the stocking. Okay, so I now have my main sketch done. I did actually end up extending this because with the image I was using, I decided I actually wanted to try and go more the length of the leg. So I've got this basic sketch for him. Now I'm going to color in my different areas so I know what color yarn I want to use, and then other details will get put on later. So I will come back to you as soon as I have my color done. Okay, so I have my piece all colored in. I decided to bring this color into here, so it came up here, and then I decided to do Christmas colors up here, which will go with his little three-dimensional hand and stocking. So I'm going to make this piece separate, which will then go over here, so the hand will come here with the little stocking. And like I said, I decided to go all the way down the length of the leg, and you can see it's, you know, very rough. I mean, like when you look at the eyes, but when you get these little stitches in, and then if you go in afterwards and add extra. So I am going to try and actually do hopefully 2 different colors here, so you have the highlights and lowlights. That will make the nose and the inside of the ears and the roundness of the face and the bottom of the neck pop out a little bit more. I am going to leave the background white because the other 2 stockings I did both had white backgrounds, so that will make it match the other ones a little bit better. And then red and green, that'll be basic here. His outfit, which I do also plan to put a little three-dimensional knot up here where it ties. The outfit, and I should say the pillow sack, and this space up here is going to be in an Aran color. So white, Aran, green and red, pretty basic, and black for the eyes. So it's these 2 peachy colors that I need to find, and hopefully I have 2 that are close enough I'll be able to do. I'm hoping I have everything I need in my stash and don't have to run to the store, but I'm not sure yet. So that's going to be my next thing, is to go check in my stash. I will use black afterwards to do like his eyebrows and his mouth and any extra little outlines I need to do. I'll probably use a tiny touch of white to add a little highlight in his eyes when I'm done. And then I will pick a color, maybe the green I'll use to do the name. So, and then I'll do the jingle bells. Not positive which color I'm going to use on the jingle bells yet. I have multiple colors, so we will see. So I am going to pick out my different colors, and then we will get started on this stocking. Okay, so I got into the colors that I have. I have the white, I have that Aran color for his pillowcase outfit, I have enough green and red for doing that top part in the little tiny stocking. And then I had these 2 colors that I was thinking, okay, I could potentially use that for his body, but I really think, and I asked my son to give me his opinion too, that I need to find more of a peachy color, so I'm gonna have to make a trip to the store. But that being said, I may possibly use this one then for his pillowcase body instead of this one, but I'm not sure until I get these colors. Once I get these colors, then we'll look and see which one looks better. But otherwise, I have the rest of the colors I need. So I just need to run to the store and hopefully find 2 peach colors that are very similar. Okay, so I just got back from Joann's and I found these 2 peach colors. This one is pale peach and this one is soft peach. And they were honestly the only peaches I even found in there. And this one I almost didn't see because it wasn't anywhere near the yarn. I had also found this in my stash, but it would have been probably enough to use for the little accent color, but it's so close. I don't think the color was different enough. So I picked both of these up, and these are the colors I'm going to use for Dobby. So I still need to decide which one of these 2 I want to use for his clothes. If I want to use that one or if I want to use that one. I have a feeling I'm going to probably use this one just because it's going to be a little bit darker. I think this one, the color is going to be too close. And it almost has a clashiness to it. I don't know if you guys are seeing that, but what I'm seeing. So I think I'm going to probably use this one. So it'll be these 2 colors for him, with this for his outfit and this top part on the cuff. And then we will do red and green up here, and then in the little sock, and then black in the eyes. And I didn't pull the black out yet, but what good knitter and crocheter does not have black in their stash, right? So, okay, so with my design that I'm using here, my first color is going to be at the top. We're working from the top down. And my first color is going to be white. So I'm going to be doing white, then red, and then the off-white, I guess that's what we'll call this, off-white. And then red, green, white, then we will start doing the other color working. We shouldn't have any more than 3 colors, I think, at one time. Yeah, I don't think we'll have any more than 3 colors at one time. 1, 2, 3. We might, no, there might be 4 right there. And this is only if you would be doing this exact pattern that I'm doing, but for what I'm doing, and most of the patterns that I have done, I try not to have too many colors going at one time. So now my chart that I'm looking at here is only 25 stitches wide. We are doing 50 stitches, and I know that on the back side, this color is, this cuff area is going to continue all the way down, and these are basic repeats, so that will continue the whole way. Once we get down to this section, the back of it is just going to be white. Now you can do 2 images like I did on the Santa and the tree. You could have an image carry over to the back too, and I have done that before, like I think the white one with the like blue and purple angel, I think that one had carried. But for this one, the only part that's going to carry to the back is this part, which the baby's name will be here and the birth year will be on the back. So you are going to start with a chain of 50. I am using a size H hook and a worsted weight yarn. So make yourself a slip knot, and chain 50. And I said a chain of 50, I meant a chain of 52. So you want 52 chains, and that's because we are working flat, we're not working in the round. So this top part here is worked flat, and then the foot and the heel, foot, and toe will be worked in the round. So we're working flat, so chain 52. And then in the second chain from the hook, you're going to do a single crochet all the way across. You should have 50 single crochets. Okay, so you get to the end, you have 50. Now, if, sometimes this happens to me, sometimes it doesn't, because yes, I know I said second chain from hook and I had us do 52, but I've had times where I do that, only did 51, do the second chain from hook, work across, not have enough. So, got all the way across, my 50th stitch, I have an extra. That's okay. If you do that, I'd rather have that extra than not have enough. So if you do that, just loosen out that knot and pull your end down. And there you go. Okay, now for your next row. So now remember, this is, I am working this Dobby pattern. The colors you are going to use depends on the pattern you are doing. So these are the colors I am using for this pattern. You could work this all in one color. So I am going to switch now to red. I'm actually going to pull this back out. So I have 2 stitches on my loop. My nifty little yarn bowl I made, and if you missed that tutorial, you can go back on my tutorials list and find it. It works amazingly. I love it better than the wood yarn bowls. Okay, so we're going to add red in, pull it through those last 2, and then you would normally do a chain 1. I have learned, I don't remember where I originally learned this tip from, but I have learned, if you do 1 less chain, or in this case no chain, you get a straighter edge. So you can pull that loop just up a little bit, but don't do a chain. We're going to turn our work, and if we work over our ends, we don't have to worry about that later. I'm going to clip off, where's my scissors aren't in my yarn ball. Oh, well, I have a spare here. Okay, I'm going to clip off the white because it's going to be a while before we're using that again. So now I'm going to take, come on, take my tail for my white and the tail for my red and work over them. So we're going to do right in that very first stitch, right here, we're going to do a single crochet, and single crochet in each across. Now when I'm working over my tails, I get down just a little bit, and then I take and I'll tug both colors, paying attention to what I'm doing here because I don't want to pull it in too tight. So now they're nice and smooth into there, and this is all going to get stitched in later. So now it's nice and tight underneath there. Continue to work over them. I finished recording the whole video, and there was a whole section of recording that was not there. So I have done a smaller piece right here just to fill in that space because my stocking is already complete. So this is 25 stitches long, just so that I can show you what we're doing at this point. So I think I left you off. I was crocheting over my tail, just doing one single crochet in each across, and you're going to work all the way to the end. When we get to the end, we're going to not finish that last stitch. We're going to leave 2 loops on our hook so that we can change color. And for my chart, my next color is going to be the off-white, kind of beige color. So right here, you can see your last stitch is right in here. And then add in your next color, finishing that stitch. You can pull your 2 colors down. We're not going to use the red for a number of rows, so I'm going to go ahead and snip it, flip my work over my tails so I don't have to weave them in later, and working back, work 1 single crochet in each stitch across, remembering to tighten our tails. And for this part of the color work, which is the cuff part that's going to have the name right here, you can count. I am working 8 rows. So I'm going to continue with this color for 8 rows, and then I'm going to do 1 more row of the red, and then we will start our first part of the color work with the green and the white. So I will meet you back at the beginning of the first green row. I did the first row of green because it's just another straight color. So we've got our straight rows, 8 rows here, 1 more row of red, 1 row of green. And we are now ready to start our first row of pattern. So I turn this upside down because we are working from here, going this direction. And our first pattern piece, we are going to be doing this row 13 here, if you can see that. So row 13, and we're going to work 5 green, 5 white, 5 green, 5 white, all the way across the whole piece. When we come back, we'll be doing our next pattern set, and that number count will be slightly off, but for this first row, it's 5 and 5 stitches all the way across. So it's really basic and really easy. So we are going to start off working our 5 green. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't complete that stitch, leave 2 loops on your hook. Pick up your white. You're going to hold the white and that green to the back. Pull your white through those 2 to finish that stitch. We can now work over that white tail and work over the green because this is our first row and this row is green. We're working 5 more stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, leaving 2 loops dropping the white to the back. We now have a front and back. This is the front of our work. This will be the back of our work. So drop the white to the back, drop that white tail to the back. Pick your green back up. We're not working over anything because we don't want anything to show through here. We are going to work 5 stitches in the green. Leaving 2 loops on our hook. Now we're going to take this white that's attached, we're going to bring it over, leaving our first float. Drop the green to the back, pick up that white, pull it through to finish that stitch, and then look at the back. There's your first float. You want to make sure that this is a little bit loose. You don't want it too loose, but you do not want this to be pulled tight. So a little bit of give in it. Again, we can work over the green because we're working on a green row. And we are going to work our 5 white stitches. Leaving 2, dropping the white to the back again, and picking up our green. Working 5 stitches. At this point, you would be at the middle of your stocking. So you're still working stitches, so your green would get dropped, the white would get picked up again to finish off that stitch. Again, making sure that we have a little bit of play in that float. Continue like this all the way across to the other end. And once you get to that other end, I will meet you there to show you how to work the next row. Okay, we are now going to flip. We're going to lift that stitch just that little bit. We're going to turn our work. You can now very visibly see which side is the front and which side is the back of our work. So we are starting our next row. We are going to work 6 single crochets. Now, we're working white, so that 6th one, we can actually work over this, that's okay, because it's a white strip. So, right there. Now we're going to leave those 2 loops. Now, instead of putting our yarn to the back, we're going to bring it to the front. So bring it to the front over, and you can grab it with your finger, lift up your green, pull through the 2 loops, and you are now going to do 3 single crochet, leaving those 2 on. Bring the green to the front, bring the white over, and we're going to pull through. Now we can do that same thing we did before. Make sure that we've got loose enough yarn there. We're going to leave the green out of the way, and we are going to work 7 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, because we are now working on our chart. So this was our first row we did where we did 5 and 5. Now we're on the second row, so we've got 3 green and we have 7 white. So we're coming in on each side. 7 white, 3 green, 7 white. Now on our first, when we first turned the corner, we only worked 6 because we didn't have that extra one over here. When we get to the end of the row, we only, oh, you can't see it now that I zoomed in. We get to the end of the row, you're only working 1. When those come around, then that one that you don't have here is that one that's right here. So it works in a full circle. So if you went and changed up to that 55, you're going to have, against that back section, you would have two greens next to each other when that gets folded over. So that's another reason why I like the way I have it here. Okay, so move the chart back out of my way. So again, we are going to bring the white yarn to the front, bring the green yarn over, and pick it up. Making sure that this is not too tight. We are going to not pick up that white strand. We're going to do 1, 2, 3 green stitches, drop the green, and bring the white back over. Making sure that is loose. And you'll get to the point where you don't really even have to tug it each time. You will automatically pull it across at the right amount. But when you're not used to doing it, you want to make sure and double check that, because otherwise your whole piece will be pulled funny. And I have actually had that before, where I ended up having to go in and cut these little tiny ones and try to tie them off and weave them in, because I had pulled them too tight. It's not fun. So make sure that these do not go too tight. Where am I at? Oh, I'm on the white. See, I'm not even paying attention. Okay, so we are on 7 white. Okay, drop, bring the white front, pick up the green, we're doing 3 stitches in green, 3 single crochet, bring it forward, pick up the white again, seven white, bring the white forward, bring the green over again, pull it through, work 3 green, bring the green forward and the white over, and work 7 white. Now this is where our first white was, and we dropped that tail. If you want to finish securing in that tail, you can go ahead and work over it. Okay. Bring the white over and the green. 3 green. Yep. Bring the green forward, the white over. And oh, I'm getting myself caught here. Okay. 1 stitch left on this row, right there. So there's our last stitch of this row. Now, this little tail, we've doubled this in so it can go ahead and get trimmed off. Don't have to worry about it anymore. So there is how the back of this is looks after that row. So this is the row that was against us. That's how it looks. You can see your little hanging tags. And I will show you later when we're done with these lines, when we get to the total end, if that bothers you having these a little too long, I'll show you my trick for dealing with them and making them slightly shorter. But this is how that looks. This is now our back side, our wrong side, and this is going to be our right side of our fabric. So we are now switching back to this side. So as we work this row, and if you're, hold on, let me put this in here, a little stitch marker. Now you can see this is a little twisted right now. So this is the perfect time to untwist it. Okay, so now we're all straight again. Pull out some more yarn so I don't have to do that in the middle of the row. Okay, so we are now on the last one of this section where the single green is. So we're going to do 2 white, because we're at this end now. We're going to do 2 white, 1 green, and then we're going to do 9 white, 1 green, 9 white, 1 green, 9 white, 1 green, 9 white, 1 green, and then 7 white to end it right there. And that will be the end of this repeat. And so this time the carried yarn is going to the back because we're on the right side of the row. Okay. So now we are going to do, we have green here, so we can actually work over that green tail. So the first 2 stitches are going to be white. So just like before, remember that first stitch is going in way over here. So in that white one. So 1 single crochet and 2 single crochet. Now 2 loops on the hook. We're going to drop the white to the back, pick up the green. We're only working 1 single crochet, drop the green, pick up the white, and we are now working 9 single crochet. So basically we're doing 1 before and 1 after the white section from the row before. So a lot of times I don't sit and count it because I know once I get to that, oops, that last white one right here, that next stitch is going to be the last one I'm working, leaving the 2 on the hook. Trying to not tangle all my stuff up. Pick up that green. Come on. Making sure that that is pulled out. So now this is going to be your longest stretch in the whole project. You're not going to work any longer stretch than this, but remember, I will show you how to make these pieces smaller at the end. So if this bothers you, you can work over it. Again, I just don't like when you can see little bits of color through. So make sure that's nice and loose. Do your 1 stitch, drop your yarn, pick up your next one. Now we're doing 9 single crochet, leaving 2 loops, drop it, pick up your green again, making sure that that is pulled out. Okay, do 1 single crochet, and then drop that green, pick up the white, and continue on, and I will meet you back when we get down to this end. Okay, I'm down to that end. This is the last of the green I'm using. I'm going to go ahead and snip that, gets it out of my way, dropping it to the back, picking up the white, finishing that loop. We can work over it for the green for one stitch, helps to kind of lock it in there. Drop it to the back and do the last stitches in white. Okay, so there is how that looks. Now, again, this was yarn out of my stash, so these were two different ones. This was Caron, and this green, I think by looking at it, it might have been a Red Heart. And even though they're both number 4, one's slightly fluffier than the other, so you have this little bit of a look, but you'll see after the next row that that won't matter so much. So looking back at our pattern, we just completed this here. Now we have 3 rows that are just white. So we're going to work 3 white rows, and then I will come back and show you how we start working the color work. So I'm at the end of the row. I'm right here at the end of that last 3rd row, and I like to start this part of my pattern. I prefer to start on the right side of my fabric and not on the wrong side, because it's easier as you're going, because once you've started it, you can count your stitches from the patterning itself and not have to count how many stitches you're going over. And when you're first starting, you're only doing this amount. But if you were starting on the wrong side, then you've got to come across all these stitches and count until you get to here. So it's a lot easier when you're first starting on this side. So you might, if your pattern is not lining up that way, you might just do an extra row to bring you back to the right side. It's not going to change anything in the overall stocking itself. So I just ended here. I'm flipping my work, so I'm now on the right side, and you see how that green lays out just fine now with the white. So this is your cuff of your stocking. When it's finished, it will be folded and stitched, and turned the right way, this will be what you're looking at. So if you want it a little bit, if you feel, depending on your tensioning and stuff, if you want it a little bit looser, you could go up a hook size or 2. I don't like to get too loose because I don't want to have anything you stick into your stocking coming through your stocking. So you don't want to have holes that are too big. But this still is a nice, generous size stocking when you're complete. So this is now our cuff. The name will go here. The year will go here. So we are now ready to start Dobby's head. So I'm going to show you how I go about working with my different colors, because we could carry like we had done up here, but we 4 stitches here, 4 white stitches, then you have this big long stretch of peach, and then you have white stitches that are going to go the whole rest of the stocking and back. So you don't really want to carry the white along this whole long bit. Now if you're doing tapestry crochet and you're working over it, by all means go ahead and carry it. But again, like I said, I don't like to do that because I don't like having the color show through. So I do the bobbin work, and I don't always leave it as a bobbin. Sometimes I do the butterflies. I have bobbins, but I found a lot of times doing, depending on how much I'm using, if I'm just using a tiny amount, I just might leave that string hanging and avoid it. If I'm doing a little bit larger, I'll do the tie it up in little butterflies, because it's just, for me, it works better that way. Now, so for this section here, because I'm going to be starting on this white and then changing and then working white. This is going to be a whole lot of white on this side. Only a little bit of white right here on this side. So I will cut off a little section and do a bobbin. And then I will work the peach back and forth here. I will float it behind these sections, probably work it underneath these sections. When I get down here further, and you have this big long section of white that's going to go all the way down it, when I get to that point, then I might just work from the opposite end of the skein. Yep, wrong way, sorry. So I'm pulling from the center right here. When I get to that section there, then I might just pull from the outside and work it that way. So sometimes if I'm working big sections, then I might just do it that way, or you can try and cut a bobbin, and if you run out, cut some more. It's just more tails to weave in, so it's totally up to you. When I get to this section and I'm doing his arms, one side I'll work from the skein, the other side, because it's not a huge area, I'll probably just cut a section and work a bobbin. Legs, I will probably just carry it behind right here and go ahead and work just this one section of peach. The white, I will probably carry that, float it behind from one side or the other, depending on which side I come to first to that section, because it's only going over 4 stitches. So I'll just float it behind. So you just kind of, in a sense, you're playing it by ear. You're just looking and seeing, okay, is it a short enough area to float it behind, or is it a longer area and you need to carry it different? So really, I will have this extra little bit of white here. I will have one of these sections I will cut one for, and I will have these 2 sides that I do. Most of it, though, is going to either be able to be floated behind or carried behind. So let's start this section. I will show you what I mean, and then I will come back when I get to the end of the graph. Okay, so I need to work, doing this first row here, I need to work 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 white, and then I'm going to work 3 in peach. So I already did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, leaving 2 loops, and then I'm going to pick up my peach. And I can work over, I'm dropping the white because I'm going to be using that one when I come back, but I can work over the tail of the peach and work 3. Now, I need to take a section of this and pull a bunch out, and I shouldn't need a whole lot for this little section here. So I think I'm going to stop right about there, and I'm going to come back to right here, and I'm just going to wrap this around. And I don't know if I do my butterflies the way most people do. This is how I do it. It works for me. So I just pull it off, then wrap my tail right around it, and tuck it in. There's my little butterfly. It's going to hang in the back. So I'm going to pick my yarn back up here, drop this to the back. Now pick up my white that is coming from the skein. Pull it through. I'm going to work over that white tail, and I'm going to work all the way to the end. So I will come back. I'm going to work to the end, and then I'm going to come back. When I get almost back to the next section, the next color change. Okay, so now we are almost back to this side of Dobby's head, and instead of having to count all those stitches coming all the way back, we had 3 stitches here. We are doing 2 extra stitches. Can you see that? I don't even have to count all the stitches across. I mean, you can 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but the main thing you need to know is that when you see these 3 here, 2 stitches before is where you're going to start that peach. So you're going to come across with your white until 2 stitches before where the peach was before, and you're going to do 2 stitches here. You're going to work across those 3, and you're going to do 2 more, and then you're going to finish out the row in white. So you don't have to worry about counting tons and tons of squares. You just have to count the ones right around what you're doing. So mine, zoom in, there you go. So there's my 3 white stitches, and I need 2 more. So I have 1 more stitch here to do. Leave 2 loops. I'm pulling this to the front now because this is the back side of our work. I am grabbing my peach without making too much of a mess here. Got caught on my butterfly, there we go. So I'm going to grab my peach, loop it in, make sure this does not get pulled tight. Now you can work over this, but you still want to make sure it's not pulled tight. So I'm leaving this here because I'm going to be coming back to that one, and I'm going to work my 2 stitches before the peach that was there before. Now I'm going to work over that tail too, so we can go ahead and fasten that in right now, and we're going to work those 3 stitches that were there, and we're going to work 2 more. So 1, 2. Now we're going to bring that to the front again, bring our tail over. Here's our white that's on our butterfly. We're going to pick up that white. We can tug it out of our butterfly a little bit, pull it through the 2 loops, and now we're going to work the end of the row in the white. Okay, so now that tail, we worked that tail in this way and that way, so it should be good and locked in. We can go ahead and snip that one off, get it out of our way, so we don't have an extra thing in our way there. So now we're going to flip this over. We're back on the right side. You can see how the top of our Dobby head is looking. So now our next row comes out even further. Now, because we're starting at this end, we can go ahead and count these stitches. It's going to be easier. Make sure you can see what I'm saying. So we have 4 stitches before we hit the peach. And the peach is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches before where the peach was before. So looking at this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So those stitches are all going to be in peach. And 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches that are going to be white. Okay? So pull some more out of the butterfly. There's our first stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4. Leave the 2 loops. Now we got a long float that's going to be here. Get our peach in there. It can be tricky when we're going that far. Okay, so we're going to get the peach in there and make sure that our float is not too tight back there. We're going to work over that float because we're working in that color. And pull that in. So what did I say, 5? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now we're back to where our peach color was before. So we're going to work across the peach. Okay, so we've worked across. Now we're going to look. We're right here, and in this case we have a pretty symmetrical, oh, you can't see what I did. We have a pretty symmetrical image. So we have the same for the most part on one side than we do on the other. I did change things up a little bit down here, but most of this is fairly symmetrical. So we worked across those 5 stitches. Now we worked across the ones where our row was in that color before. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more peach stitches, and then we're going to work white all the way across and all the way back till we get to here. When we get to this row, we're going to change a couple more colors. So I will work that with you so you can see how we're doing that, and then I should be able to let you go for this part. Okay, so I'm working, okay, so we're working along the white, so we can go ahead and work over the white that's behind it to do our 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're going to drop that peach. We're going to pick our white back up. And we're going to keep working that white all the way across and then all the way back to 1 stitch before. So the white's going to come all the way back till 1 stitch before. And I will meet you back up here. So now I am back to 1 stitch before. So the 1 stitch before is in the light peach. Then we do 3 in the darker peach. Then we work across the light peach, and we're going to do this again. So we're going to, right here, bring the yarn, white yarn to the front, pick up the peach, and work that first one in the light peach. Bring that to the front. I'm going to pick up that dark peach, hold the tail. Now we're going to work over. So again, you do not have to do it this way, but you can work over the tail and the working light peach, and we're doing 3 of the dark peach. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, bring the dark peach and the tail over so that we can pull the light peach back through. Now we need to work 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 of the light peach. but I'm going to go ahead and work, instead of floating it, I'm going to work over the dark peach because the colors are very similar, and work my 11, Now, I don't know if you can notice that I try to kind of pull this towards the back so that it's not against the front. As much as possible, I try and pull that towards the back. Now let's make sure I have 11. And when you're counting your stitches, if you don't already know, there's these little V's on the top, and you can count those V's for your stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 is on my hook. Okay. So now I'm going to bring that light peach to the front again, pick up the dark peach, and work 3 stitches. Now I'm going to work over that light peach. 1, 2, 3. Bring the dark peach to the front, pick up the light peach, work that last light peach stitch, bring it to the front, pick our white back up. That's our butterfly white, and work our last, where are we at? We're right here. So we have 1, 2, 3 stitches. That wasn't in focus, sorry. Ah, so if we did that right, we have 1, 2, 3 stitches in white. So 1, 2, 3. So that's the end of that row. So there's all of our little floaty things hanging. When we come back, we can lock this one back in and then trim it. When we turn our work over, you can see how our colors are looking. Okay, so there's the top of his head that we see here. Now, what we just did carrying it is the tapestry crochet, and if you look really close, do you see in between these stitches where you see that darker peach? Can you see that in there? It's subtle because these are very similar colors, but you can see it. That's why I don't like to work tapestry crochet most of the time unless they're similar colors like this, because there's those little bits, and you saw, even though I was trying to pull that yarn to the back, some still showing. Now if I hadn't been pulling it to the back, you would have had more that would have ended up underneath this V section here, and that's what you really don't want to have happen, because if it's under that V, it's going to be very, very visible. So if you work tapestry, try and keep that yarn pulled more to the back. So with this, I think it's fine. I've pulled you way up close to be able to see that. When you pull back, it's not going to be so noticeable. And it's all in these same peachy tones. It's just adding a little extra into his skin there. But with a darker color, I would not do it. So now our next row, we're going to keep doing this. We have 2 stitches here, 2 white. We have 1 light peach, 1 dark peach, 3 light peach, 1 dark peach. We work across, and that's getting repeated, and we're doing the same thing back and forth. When we get down here to his eyes, we'll work these 2 sections, just little tiny bits of yarn. It won't take much, and there's a couple different things you can do at this point. If you want to float these behind, you can, but this is dark yarn, so there's a possibility you'll see that behind. What I think I will probably do is just work 2 separate pieces, leave my tails, because this is in a little tiny block I could actually take my two tails, put a knot in the back just for extra security, and then weave that into this little square and clip them off. And I will do that on both eyes. For me personally, I just think that's going to work a little bit better. And then I'll just continue doing my color work like I was saying, all the way down until I get to the bottom here. So in the same manner we've been doing, I'm going to continue that all the way down to here, and then I will come back to you. I'll meet you right there. Okay, so I got to the end, and I did actually end up doing one more row of white just because when I start working the heel, I didn't want to take any chance of working into the bottom of the legs. So I decided to add one extra row of white. So this is the back, and you can see the areas where I did floats and the areas that I didn't. I worked over most of my tails. Here you can see a little bit right here from the tails I worked over. Some of them I partially worked over. So here I worked over it a little bit, but there wasn't a lot of space right here as I was working the stitches. So I'm going to go back now and weave in my ends. And then after I weave in my ends, I am going to show you how to add extra details you want on the front and add the name in, and how I'm going to also add a three-dimensional piece onto this. So I will be right back. Okay, so I have my ends woven in except for my eyes. So you can see. Now if you were doing a blanket or something, you obviously would not use floats. You would do tapestry or weave in your ends. But this is not going to be seen because this is the back. So let me go out. So here's our full square, and you can see how nice and straight these edges are. And then we fold this in half, and there is our dobby next to our chart. So now I am going to put a mouth on him. I'm going to put some eyebrows on him. I'm going to do a little bit more with his eyes. Then I'm going to also put a hand coming down here holding a little sock. And then I'm going to put a name across here and the bells. So all this needs to be done before you go to the next step of the stocking, which is to sew up the edges. So you do not want your edges sewn up. When you end off your bottom right here, you want to leave a nice long tail so that you can use that when you're sewing back up. So at the moment I've got this long piece of string that's hanging there, yarn, but now I'm going to work on the front of this. So I left the tails from his eyes because then I can use that as I define his eyes a little bit more with our handy dandy yarn needle. And I do have a pattern on Ravelry for this stocking, and it includes the Santa and Christmas tree. It currently does not have this one. However, I'm going to zoom you in. So if you would like to take a screenshot, now is the time to do that. And I will also, as soon as I get the chance, I will add in an extra file with the Ravelry for this. I will label it ELF, and then you will have this one too. But you can use this base stocking pattern and make any sort of chart you want, like I showed you how to do at the beginning of this video. So now I'm sliding in my chair. Okay, so I'm just going to take my tail And I'm going to come up here, and honestly, I'm going to play with this till I think it looks the way I like it. So we've got kind of round eyeballs. I just want to smooth some of this out. I don't need to necessarily get rid of all of that extra color because it's going to create highlights. Oop, I went back into the same hole. Generally, if you go, so I went down here, and now I'm going to want to come up to here. So if I go here and I do a back stitch, if you do sewing, you'll know, then I can come back to that spot, and I don't do what I did a second ago. And there's no exact rhyme or reason to this. I am just trying to create something that looks, to me, a little bit better. So I'm kind of outlining it. Okay, so I have more of a shape. You can see the difference here between the two eyes. There's more of a shape here now than there is here. Now I can keep adding. I can color in, basically, with the yarn, color in some more of this. I can leave some of it just until I have that shape that I'm wanting. So I actually feel like I need a little bit more right here on this side. So I'm going to add in an extra little piece there. And I think I am going to try to block out a little bit of this. Now you could have sewn this whole eyeball on. That is totally fine. And if you really wanted to, you could use safety eyes. I've never done that with something like this that's a flat stocking, but there's no reason you couldn't. You could also crochet a little round piece and sew it on. You could use a piece of felt, and you could stitch or glue it on. Some people will glue stuff like this, and it will work. You can actually use hot glue. I prefer to sew my stuff on. I don't like the feel of it when it's been glued. So that eye looks better now, and he looks like he's got little highlights in his eye. So now I'm going to go to the next one, and I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, so here are our eyes. I think they look pretty cute now. And so now I want to add in a mouth and do some little eyebrows. I'm going to do them basically the same way I was just doing, little just stitching, back stitching that is going to go onto there. I think I might use the yarn that I used for his clothes. I think that might work for that. So I'm just going to cut a piece of that yarn and go for it. And if it doesn't come out the way you want it, it's easy enough to pull this back out. I have done that before. I've done it where I've offset things and had to go back and fix it. So I think I'm going to try and do his mouth right about here. And I'm actually going to pull through and just leave a little bit of tail. You see that tail right there? Just about like that. I'll weave that in afterwards. That way, if I do need to pull it out, it makes it easier because it's not woven in yet. That gives us our mouth. So we can go ahead then and weave in these ends. And just make sure when you're weaving in on a color that is different, that you try and stay along this side. And if you're not sure you have, you can flip it over and you can see, you can't see the needle here, so you know you're on just this side. And then you can go ahead and weave in those ends. And then I like to back stitch so that I lock my ends in. I go over just a little bit and then come back and clip that off. Do the same with the other end. Now, if your end is too short to run your needle, then you run the needle, then pick up your yarn, and you can pull it through, and you can do the same thing to go back. I do that a lot, which saves yarn, especially when you're like playing yarn chicken and you're one stitch to the end. Work the stitch, because I mean I'm still clipping that much off. Okay, so that's woven in. We have a little float, which is okay, and there's his little mouth. So now we're going to work an eyebrow, give him a little bit of personality. Now you could do this eyebrow in the same color and just create dimensionality, or you can do it with the contrasting color to create a little bit of dimensionality without as much yarn. So we're just trying to give him a little bit of character. And I caught my black in the back, which I don't want yet. I need to weave in the black ends, and I haven't done it yet. Okay, so now let's see what we think. See if we like that. We're trying to create a little bit of a bump like this. I think we have too short a bump. I think it needs to come down over here, but we might be able to just add that. I am going to go ahead and weave these black ones in real quick because they're getting in my way. Okay, that's better. Okay, so I'm going to come up right here and just bring this down a little bit lower and see if I like that better. There. Gives them a little bit more personality. I think I like that better. So now I'm just going to replicate that on this side. And there we go. So now he has his little eyes and his mouth. So now you can go, if you want to, take some of the peach. You could add some extra here. You can add some out here for outline. I might actually take and add just a little bit to create a little, you know, here and there. It doesn't have to be around the whole thing. You can actually take and say go from right here. Oop, pulled my tail all the way through. You could go like this. You can do little tiny bits like this that just create a little bit of an outline. And let's see if I go back right here. See how you can create just a tiny bit of an outline without going around the whole thing. So I'm going to add some extra little outlines here and there on this that I think it might need, and I will be right back. Okay, so I didn't do too much, because if you start doing too much, then you start feeling like you need to do all of it. So I just did a little bit on his face. I could have come down here and did some outlining around his arms or his legs, but again, like I said, if you start doing too much, then you're just stitching all along the whole thing, which you perfectly, I mean, you can do that. I'm not saying you can't do that. You can do that, but it's a lot of extra work that you may not need. Okay, so now we've got a couple of things that we need to do. We need to put the name and the year on the top, and then for this one I'm going to make the couple three-dimensional pieces that are going to go onto here. I've gotten to the point, I've done this enough now that I don't generally do this step, but if you're not used to doing the names and stuff on here, this step might help. So you've got scraps from what you've been working. Utilize your scraps, and you can put in marks. So here's my center. Then I can take, if I want to, take another one, divide this in half, and now you can count your stitches, or you could just figure it out right here. This is going to be the center, this is the same color, but you're still going to have a definition here. So you can divide this up. I guess I should put a different color in there so it's easier for you guys to see. Now, if you have not done the stripes of color like this, then you may need to do some other ones going in the other direction, so that you make sure you're working within a set space, so you can take another contrasting color and you can go along this way and run the piece of yarn that way too. I have the stripes, I don't need to do that. So the biggest thing is going to be like this. Now, if it makes you feel even more comfortable, you could divide these up more. Really though, I don't think you should need more than your center line, because you want to attempt to keep your name on one side and your year on the other. And then by putting your center mark, you can center this out. Now, if you have a really long name, then you might need to make this go bigger, which is what I had to do on the Quidditch one. So it was a double name, so it came out longer. You can do a crochet. Oh, couldn't find my hook, it was holding my microphone. So you could do a crochet where you are pulling your yarn through like this and creating this slip stitch, and you can do your name that way. So you see how you do that? So you could do your name like that, or you can do the name just by doing the back stitch like what we were just doing down here. Most of the ones I have been doing recently, I have been doing the back stitch because I just found that the easiest for me. Then you need to decide what color you want to do here. You want it to be noticeable, but you want to divide your colors up and stuff. So I could do red here, which would probably pop the most. Technically I could do black, but I really don't want to do black. I think the best color would probably be the green if it will show up well enough. So that's the other thing, is you might think, oh, this is a different color, it's going to show, but depending on the tonal value of it, it might not show as well. So let's look at the green and see how the green will end up showing up. So if I do the green and I do a back stitch with it, I think the green will be okay. So I think I will do the green. So I'm going to show you how you figure out how you're going to do your name. Okay, so the name that's going on this one is Isla. So it's I-S-L-A. And then on the back side, it's going to have the year of 2024. And we know we have 25 by 8 that we're working with. So for the front, we're going to work with 25. So I'm just going to make a little mark here. So we've got 8 rows and 25 stitches across. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's our 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 119, 120, 121, 122, 123, 124, 125, 126, 127, 128, 1 So now if you want to know where the center of that is, go over 13. So this is where we put in that center string. So that is your center of your section. So you want to try and create a center area. You also want to make sure you use capital letters. They read better when you are doing stitching like this. If you want to use lowercase, you can, but it just generally reads better when you do capitals. That doesn't look fully focused to me, but I don't know, maybe it's my bad eyesight. Okay, so you're going to be working in a block. Even though this is not color worked, you are still working within these blocks of stitches for your holes. So you can do your eye straight. You can also do your eye with the little lines on it if you want. I generally just do the straight line because it's easier and it takes up less room, because it's always nice to have less room. So certain letters are going to take up more room than others. So just because this is 4 letters, it doesn't mean the IS is going to be here and the LA here. So let's see. I usually do, and you can also kind of sketch like this if you need to, and then fill in your blocks. And I usually leave 1 space in between each letter. Okay, so I don't know if you can see where I'm at here. I've got 3 here and about 4 here, so I actually want to come over 1. I think I'm going to just come over 1, and I like to leave at least 1 stitch at the top and the bottom. So let's see how this will work. And then where's my eraser? Our S. L. 3 here now, 1, 2, 3. We ended up so I actually ended up off again, but because I'm doing it on the paper, I can adjust that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do a cross right there. Okay, so there's our writing for Isla. And so our S will be created there, I, L, and our A. So I need to, when I go to put it onto here, I can either redraw this or I can just move it over a little bit. So I'm going to probably, let's see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here and 1, 2, 3 here. So I want 4 and 4. So I'm going to move this over so I'm over 4 stitches before I start this, which should leave this over 4 stitches when I'm done. And then we're going to do the same thing with the 2020. Okay, so I've got 8 there. Here is our center line. So the 2 is going to be done similar to the S, but in reversed. And the 0 is done similar to the A, except you don't have the crossbar and it comes across at the bottom. And 4 is the easiest of all of those. Okay, so we want, that one's going to probably be pretty close to center. So I think I'm going to try it there. And I'm going to start with the O here. So now with the 2, we're going to come down just a little bit lower, I think. Let's see. Trying to remember how exactly I end up doing the 2. Yeah. So you can see the shape of the 2 here. The 4, again, like I said, is easy. There's our 4, and then we need another 2 over here. So we'll just copy this one. And let's see how good we did. We've got 3 stitches here, 2 here, so that's pretty good. So if we really wanted to even that up, we could make this 0 1 smaller. You just get rid of this here, you bring it over 1 so it makes it a little bit of a narrower 0, which I do. It depends on the space I'm using, whether I use the wider 0 or the narrower one. Same with the A. A, L, 0, E, F, they're all ones that you can easily make a little bigger or a little smaller depending on the space you're trying to use. So there is our basic, what we're going to do as we do our writing. So we can look at that while we are working, just as a reference. And again, we have our center line to help us as we're guiding. I wanted to go over 4, so you can utilize these little holes right here, because that's what we're going into, but you can see these little holes make it the easiest. So I'm going over 4 of these, and I'm going to go right here. I'm going to start my eye here at the top, and you could technically go all the way down, or you can divide that. I tend to divide it just because I think it makes it, in a sense, a little bit stronger, less likely to snag on things. So there's our I. And now we're on to the S. So now if you look at the S, because we're right at the middle, so we can go either top or we can go down, which actually, well, I need to do that again. I was like, wait a minute, that's not even, because I didn't start properly. Okay, let's try that again. So we can go all the way up to here. So this is our top row and our bottom. So we want to be right about here, because we're working technically, even though we're in an 8-row area, we're working with 6 rows. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I had gone too low to start with. Okay, now that's more even. Okay, so we are at the middle, so we can start our next one at the top or we can start at the bottom. When it comes to the S, working this way, the easiest place to start is going to be right here in this bottom corner. So that's what we're going to do. And again, like I said, you can use these holes like the blocks. So we are actually going to start right here. And we're going to come down, we're going over 2. We are back stitching. And we're coming up 1. Now we're going to go over. Let's see where I'm at. 1, 2. Go right. If you ever get to where you're just not sure about how something is looking or where it's going to lay out, you can just take your string, I keep saying string, your yarn, and you can kind of lay it down and see where it's falling along a certain point and know which hole you're going into next. So now let's see if I did my S readable. There's my S. But I still am worried I'm going to be over too far, because my L is going to go right here, and then my A is going to go right here and end right there with all this space. So I need to pull this out. I need to move over a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and work my writing into here and do my numbers, and I will be back. Okay, so I got the writing done. We can take these out, and there's our writing at the top. So now we have our jingle bells to put onto the little points here. And I'm going to show you how to do that, and in the same time be able to, if you want to, shorten some of these. So for starters, you need a yarn needle that is going to fit through your bell, because you only have the little hole that you need to be able to fit your yarn through. Now, like I said, you could sew this, but I like to do the yarn. So this one will fit all the way through it. And you just look at the different ones you have to make sure and find one that will fit the whole way. So this one is a little too thick. That one won't go through. So we'll use this one. And then we can either use green or white for our tying in. I think I'm going to do green. So I want to go at least double the length just to make sure that I have enough as I'm going. Now, this is going to be a smaller eye on our needle. So fold it over, pull it down really nice and tight, and hold that little tiny bit right there so that you can feed it up into your needle. And I let go of it. You know, nothing ever goes exactly right when you're trying to actually record it and show it to somebody else. Just like trying to get the name on the stocking and then doing it off. There we go. Okay, so in this case, we can go ahead and weave our end in first. And we're going to be starting at our first point here, so we're on the back side. So go ahead and actually I'm going to go this way, weave that yarn in, and you know I always like to go back. Okay, so then we're just going to, and I'm up a little high, but I wanted to weave into the green there, so I can go ahead and come down this way through the, so we're going to come down at that very bottom point so that we come up. Okay. We're just going to thread a bell on, and we're going to go right back, go just off of it so that you don't eventually pull the bell through a hole. So go a little ways off, pull it back down. You kind of put your thumb on it like this, it'll keep it from tangling around the bell. And then let it pull down nice and tight. Now if you want to make sure that one's secure, actually I shouldn't say if you want, I do this anyway, but come up as if you're weaving in. That's going to hold everything down nice and tight here. It's going to bring you up to here. So now I come across to about midway. Then I stick my needle underneath those loops that are right there. And then I go back to where I just was, and I'm going to run my needle down again. And that is going to pull those down a little bit tighter against your work. And that's how we minimize them. So our next bell is going right here. So you can run your needle right down to the end. Poke your needle through at the tip. String on another bell. And stick your needle back in. Put your thumb into the loop against the yarn and let it pull down nice and tight. Run that needle back up the other end of the triangle and halfway down to the next spot. Run it under the yarn and back over and run back down to the next spot. And you're going to continue like this until you have all 5 bells on, and I'll meet you back there. So when you're down at the end, you've got all your bells on, and you just weave in that tail, and then you can clip off so now these are all in a little bit tighter, less likely to get caught on things, and you've got all your pretty little bells on. I don't know, there's just something about little jingle bells on your Christmas stocking. I just love it. So there is all of that. So now the last thing I'm going to do on this one is I'm going to make his crochet a little piece to put here for his tie and do his little hand and sock that he is going to hold. So I'm going to use a smaller hook because I want these pieces to be smaller, and I think for his little tie I am just, you know, winging this. So let's see, I think I'll chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's see, 8, 9. We'll make it an even 10. Why not? We'll chain 10. And then I'm going to do single crochet. No, you know what? I'm going to do a slip stitch first. Slip stitch, single crochet, half double, half double, single, nope, we're taking that single back out, slip, we're going to slip that one, then do another half double, single, and a slip. Okay, so we did a slip, single, half double, slip, half double, single, slip. And then let's see, do we want to go back on the other side? Let's go back on the other side. We can always pull it out. Okay, so we're going to go right to the other side. Might as well work over our tail while we're at it. We'll do a slip stitch, single, half double, slip stitch, half double, single, and finish it with a slip stitch. Yeah, and then going to leave, I cut a little bit of a tail. I'm gonna pull that, oh, we came to a knot in our thread. I am going to pull that through. See, this got worked all the way through so it can get clipped. And this one, I'm going to string onto the yarn needle. And run it down to the center. Now, since I just had to clip the longer tail off, we'll see if I'll have enough here to do this. And this is going to go right here at the top. This is his little tie. So I'm just going to actually loop this right into here, just like that. And then I'm going to do that again, right over the center of it. So we're going to literally tie his tie right on. Now we could leave it like that. We could try and flip it this way. We could do it like this. I think maybe I like it like that. So we'll just go ahead and stitch it on right where we have it and we like it. So I'm sorry if you can't see this real well. I'm trying to keep it from moving from where I have it at. Yeah, I think I like it there. So I'm just going to finish stitching him down a little bit. I'm going to leave some of it up though, because I want that three-dimensional look on it. Okay, so there's his little tie on his shirt, or his pillow sack outfit. Okay, so now the last thing we're going to do is make a little hand with a little tiny sock. So again, I'm using that smaller size hook. And I'm going to use this lighter peach. And I'm going to start off with a chain. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's see what 10 brings us to. One nice thing about crochet is you can lay it out like this, figure out where you want something. Okay, so 10 brings us out that far, and I think I like that distance. So I'm going to see how I want to do this. I'm going to chain 2 more. And then come back in with a double crochet 2 chains down, back into that 10th chain. 1, let's see, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so my battery went dead. So we chained 12, and then we did 5 double crochets in the second chain from the hook, and now we are doing a single crochet in each of the remaining chains. And then when we get to the end, oops, we're going to do 3 single crochets. So I just did 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to single crochet back up the other side, going over our beginning tail, so we don't have to weave that in later. And then we're just going to slip stitch back in here at the base of our double crochets. And then I'm going to cut a long tail, pull that through, trim that off now that we worked over it, and secure this. So I'm going into, for those of you who don't know how I do this, because I did not knot that off, I just pulled it through. Going in underneath the next V, going to pull that yarn tail through. Then I'm going to come up into this bottom V that we just worked and pull the tail through there, and it gives us a nice clean edge. So this is going to be our little hand. Let's see how it will work. So there is our little hand, and we will stitch him down here which we could have made him even longer if we wanted to totally cover that space. But if we stitch him down, and then he is going to hold the little stocking right here. So now we have to make the little stocking. So we're just going to do something really, really simple for this. You could work it flat, or you could work it in the round. And I think it would look cute if we went ahead and did it in the round. So we are going to chain. Let's chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and see how wide that will be. I think that should be okay. Let's see, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I like the 10s here. I like the 10s today. Which will bring our little round stocking. Yeah, I think 10 ought to work. So we're going to do 10, and we're going to join in the round. So come back to the first chain, tuck your little tail down, and do a slip stitch. Now you can work over your tail. Let's see, chain 1, just so that we don't mess up going back in. So we're going to do a single crochet in each stitch all the way around, working over our tail back to the beginning. And you want to try not to twist your chain, but this being just a little tiny piece that's for the front of this, it's not going to matter too much if you do, because it's just a little decorative element. So don't panic if you've ended up twisting it. I'm sure it will look just fine. Okay, we've come back to the beginning. Since this is our cuff, let's work 2 rounds of the green just to create a little bit of, let's see, how do we want to do that? Yeah, let's work it green with a red leg, a green heel, a red foot, and a green toe. I like that idea. So we're going to work 1 more round in the green, then we will add the red in. And I should put a stitch marker in there so I know where I'm at, since we are working in the round. We're trying to work it small since it is a design element. Okay, we're back to the beginning, so let's switch and put red in. And then I think, nope, pulled the green right through instead of the red. There we go. I'm going to leave the green there, because again, where it's a design element, we can just let that carry inside. I am going to work over my red tail. Did not put the stitch marker back. Helps if I work the red and not the green. Again, like I said, when you start recording things, that's when you mess up. Okay. Red. There we go. We're going to leave the green there. We're going to work the red around. I did not put the stitch marker back in this round because I know I'm coming back around to where the red is. I will throw it in the next one. And I think we will do 3 rounds in the red, because again, this is tiny. We don't want it to be too big, and I'm hoping that already that it's not going to be too big. So we're going to do 3 rounds of red. I will meet you back at the end of the 3 rounds of red. Okay, so I actually ended up doing 5 rows of red because I thought it needed to be just a little bit longer, but I don't want to do too much more because I don't want it to be too long. So I'm going to switch back to the green and leave the red there. I'm actually going to do a slip stitch with the red to bring it to the same level. I'm going to pick up the green and I'm going to do a single crochet. Actually, let's go back to that slip stitch and pick it up in the green. Okay, so I'm going to do a single crochet, a half double, a double, a half double, and a single. We're going to slip right there, turn our work, and we're going to go back into that first one, do a single, a half double, a double, a half double, and a single. I'm going to slip with the red, and we are going to, let's go ahead and turn our work back so we're on the same side we've been on, and we're just going to continue to work in the round. Over those 5 stitches and the other 5, and I think we will do 2 rounds in red, and we'll see how that looks. Okay, so I did 3 rounds in the red, and we are going to go ahead and clip our red, and that can just sit inside of the sock. We are going to, so we're going to, I'm going to pull that back out so that I can slip like I did before with the next color. So I'm going to slip stitch here, picking the green back up from inside the stocking, and we are going to do chain 1, and we are going to do double crochets all the way around. And then slip stitch into that first one. So it should look like this now. Looks kind of like a strawberry. Okay, so then we are going to cut ourselves a little tail. And I'm going to go ahead and pull that one out. Take our yarn needle, stuff that little red back inside of the hole, and we are just going to weave in and out underneath those top V's. All the way around. Okay, and then we're just going to pull that tight, which is going to make the toe of our little sock. So we've got that all pulled. Feed this back inside of our sock. And it's really tiny, so I don't know. Let's see if we can do this. Just back in through the center. Oop. Okay, give it a little tug. And then let's see if we can find the red one. I'm getting tricky now with this. You could just weave the end in. I am trying to be a little extra because I can't help myself. Come on, where you at? I know you're in there. I'll just turn it inside out. There we go. Okay. There's our red tail. Tie it into a little knot. Do a third one just to be good and safe. We'll clip those off right there. Turn it back the right way. There we go. Push out our heel, our toe, pull out our top, and there is our cute little stocking. Okay, so now all we got to do, we'll take our little stocking and our little dobby hand, and we're just going to stitch it all down so that he's holding the little stocking. So just take your yarn needle and go ahead and stitch it down, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I stitched it open, so you technically could still put something in there if you wanted to. I went around, I stitched his little hand onto the sock, stitched that down onto here. I did a couple whip stitches here to kind of bring it into the arm that's already there. Then underneath I put my finger into the sock and I stitched a couple rows back and forth so that it's going into the back side of the sock. You can kind of see there if you pull on it. And there is our little Dobby holding his Christmas sock. So now the colors that we had up here are tied in there. So what do you guys think? Do you like that? I hope you like that. Okay, so now we have everything done on this part of the stocking that we needed to do. So we need to stitch up this side and then we can finish the stocking itself. So to do that, if you fold, if you fold this in, doesn't have to be perfect, just it's a little bit easier if you bring it in this way. Bring it in so that you can line up your rows here. If you need to, you could throw some pins in, you know, just throw some pins in like this to keep yourself lined up. And you've got your nice long tail, and we're just going to thread our yarn needle and we're going to stitch it up. So this first one is going to go into this corner, so we can actually pull that through under that V and back down through that first one. Then we have a nice smooth line here, and then come up in that next hole for the next row. So we're just going to go back and forth here, picking up row sections. and basically doing like a hidden stitch. But you don't really want, you could try and fold little bits of this in, but you create a bulk that you don't really need to have. So we're just going to go back and forth, keeping this lined up along the way, because we don't want our rows to go out of alignment and then it won't match up later. So we're just going to continue like this all the way up, and I will meet you back when we get to right here. Okay, so I'm back to this point right here. If you left yourself a little bit of a tail from working your band, then you can use that so that you don't have white stitches showing here. Just take your white or your main color and run it up the inside to this top point. Go ahead and keep stitching this closed here with your other color. I did stitch the white up to here. There's not enough for it to make a big difference. You can't really see it because you're right up against that other color anyway. So making sure you're keeping everything lined up. Okay, so we're now right at that top piece, and I am going to run this one back in, and I'm going to pick up the white again and finish off this little top section. Now you can do again like we did at the bottom, go ahead and go underneath your V and come over and go down through the other V, and then bring this yarn to the front and leave it there, because you're going to need to put your tie in your hanger. But your brown, you can go ahead and, or whatever color you're using, you can go ahead and weave that one in and trim it. And if you don't have any tail left from this main color, that's fine, because when you make your hanger, you can just have a tail from it. You'll just leave yourself a tail, but since I have quite a bit here, I'll use this and I'll clip my tail shorter on the other. So there you go. There is our seam. There's our seam working up. So now we can just, it'll flatten right back out, just like that. So there is our stocking. So we are now going to pick up our heel stitches, work our heel, and then work our foot. Okay, so now we are going to work on the heel. And if you are changing your color for your heel and toe, this is when you are going to do that. I think I'm going to use the same color of his clothing so that it matches with the top, him, and it's not too overpowering as if I used the red or the green. So you're gonna lay your stocking out flat, just like when you seamed it up, and this is going to be your center point. So I'm just going to put this here for reference. So you have 50 stitches in total. So you have 25 on one side, and we want to come to the edge of the 25. So this center spot where I just marked it should be our 13th stitch. So if we count 12 out here and 12 out here, and then put a marker. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now, just to make sure that we did it properly, we'll count our other stitches to make sure there's 25 on the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So I need to actually move one over here. Okay, so we should have 25 across here. This one, because I counted this right here, we need to make sure and just go right into here. So this will actually kind of all go together right there. You just have to make sure you haven't added extra stitches there, which isn't going to be a big deal. Just as long as you're working 25 stitches here, this won't matter quite as much. So we're going to work 25 stitches here. We are going to pick up with our contrasting color, back with our H hook, and okay, so we are going to pick up in that stitch marker there, and we are going to single crochet 25 across. Again, working over our tail, so we don't have to weave in that end. So I'm actually going to go back, I go back into that same stitch I just slip stitched into to create a full stitch, and then work across. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then I'm going into that one where the marker is. That will be 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Okay, so there is our halfway. Okay, so now we are going to turn our work, and we are going to work back 18 single crochets. So my pattern, if you buy the pattern, it does say chain 1, but you can do the chain 1, or you can do that little slight lift like we've been doing through the rest. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay, so now we're going to turn again, and we're going to work back 11. So there's our first spot there. Looking into it. Oh, come on. There we go. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so now we're going to continue and repeat, and this kind of is like, I don't know, I feel like it's a fun part. So you're going to turn and you're going to work back across those 11. And then that last one, remember, is right there on that little arch. Okay, so we've worked across all 11. Now we're going to come down to this bottom row here. And focus. There we go. We're going to come down to this bottom row into this stitch right here and work a single crochet. Keep your tension nice and tight so you get a nice tight stitch right there. You do your little lift and turn. And work in that first one. So now you have 12 stitches you are working back to the other side. There's our last stitch. And we're going to do that again. We're going to come down to this bottom row here and work a single crochet, keeping our tension good and tight. Okay, flip it. We now have 13 stitches, and we are going to work back across. And we're going to continue to do this, picking up stitches from that first row until we've worked across all 25 stitches. Once we've gotten across all 25 stitches, I will show you what we'll do next. So I will finish this row with you and then meet you up there. So, 1, 2, 3, 6. That stitch is a little hard to see. I wanted to make sure where I was at, that I was at the right place, because we're pulling that tension tight, remember? So it can make it a little tricky, so make sure you're counting. Okay, so now we're coming back down here, and okay, there we go, out of focus. Keeps going out of focus, sorry about that. So, oops, pull it here, do our single crochet, and lift it and flip it. So keep doing that, working across, picking up your stitches, and I will meet you back when you get to the end of your 25 stitches. Okay, here's stitch number 24 right at the end. Turn and go back, working our last row to end with stitch number 25. And stitch number 25. Okay, so now we are going to clip our yarn. I like to bring this one down into this first loop, pull it in so that we create a straight line here. Now you can either weave this end in or work over it. The only thing is you would have to bring it back up this way to work over it, because otherwise you're working over it in the white. So I tend to weave it in just to make that a little bit easier. Okay. So now you're going to switch back to your main color, and you're going to join at the center here. So we want to be in that, it doesn't have to be exact, but right around that 13th stitch. So your halfway mark up here, if you want to count it, you can. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13. Right where I was. So there's your stitch 13. That's your center point, and you're going to join your main color in right there. And you're going to just start working single crochet, working over your end. Okay, so we are going to work a very small gusset just to bring our 50 stitches down to 46. When you get to this point here on the side, if you feel like you need to work 2 stitches here, that's fine, because we are going to be working a gusset that's going to bring the stitch count down. So you can go ahead and work 2 stitches here to keep that nice and smooth. I'm going to take this stitch marker out now. So this first round, we're just going to work in each around, and we will do our first decrease in the next round. So continue all the way around. When you come back to the other side, again, you can go ahead and work 2 stitches right here. So one here, and make that smooth all the way around. Okay, so I've come to the end, back to the beginning. We are now working in the round, so you're just going to continue to work. I'm going to work into this one here, and then I'm going to work into that next stitch here. And I'm just going to keep working in the round, and I'm not worried about, you can put a marker here if you want, but when we get to the end of this point, that bind off does not have to be in the exact point, and you know that you're working around to this center section each time as a row. So I just did 2 stitches. I'm going to count this row so I know how many stitches I have. So if you want to put a marker right here just for counting purposes at the moment, because I want to decrease to 46. So okay, I'm going to put a decrease right here, so I'm going to work 2 together. So remember, as you're counting that row of stitches, that's just 1 stitch there. I'm going to work another decrease right here before the heel. Okay, so I'm back at my beginning around, and with the amount of stitches I counted, I'm going to need to do 3 more decrease rows to get to the 46 stitches that I want. And your decreases are going right here just after this heel and just before this side of the heel. So you're just doing a single crochet 2 together, and you're going to continue in the round doing that until you have 46 stitches. Once you have 46 stitches, you're going to just continue working in the round those 46 stitches until your foot measures 5 inches. Once it measures 5 inches, I will meet you back there. Okay, so I have worked 5 inches. So now I can bind off here. So we want to be approximately right where we had started. I'm actually going to undo a couple of these right about there, and then I will do a slip stitch here, clip my end, pull it through. And even though we'll be working over this, I still just like to finish that off. So go under the V, go up through this one, and pull it through. So we've got that nice. It makes it easier too when you're trying to find your stitches on the next round. So now we're going to join with our toe color right here. So I'll just go right into here. Okay. So now we're just going to work around, doing 1 single crochet in each stitch. We're going to go and make 1 full round, and then we will start our decrease rounds for our toe. I like to do 1 full round just because it makes it a little easier. You've got that nice smooth line around. You've gone over your tail. You can put your markers in. So I just find it makes it a little bit easier. So 1 full round. We'll come back to the other end, and then I'll show you how to set up for your decreases. So I went around 1 row. Now we want to go straight up from our point here. You can use something straight if you want. Doesn't have to be exact, but we're going to go straight up. You can also take these 2 points, since they are our sides, pull them out, which is the way I usually do this. So now we know these are our 2 sides. Make sure that's nice and even. You'll see a stitch right at each end. So there's 1, and here's the other one, like that. Okay, so we're going to do our decreases before and after each of the stitch markers. So we're going to continue our single crochets until we are 2 stitches before the stitch marker. Okay, so we're 2 stitches before the stitch marker. We're going to single crochet 2 together, then we're going to single crochet where the marker is and single crochet 2 together after. So single crochet 2 together, move the marker, single crochet, replace our marker, and then single crochet 2 together, and then continue around till 2 stitches before the next marker. Okay, we are 2 stitches before the marker. We're going to single crochet 2 together, remove our marker, single crochet in that one, replace our marker, and single crochet 2 together. So we're going to continue doing this each round, doing a single crochet 2 together before the marker, a single crochet in the marker spot stitch, and a single crochet 2 together after the marker. So keep doing that around and around and around until you've gotten down to 10 stitches left, and I will meet you back there. Okay, I've gotten all the way down to the end. My last set of stitches. I am going to clip myself a tail, pull that stitch through, and just like we did on the little tiny stocking, we are going to just weave, weave back and forth through the stitches. Right underneath the V, and just give it a little tug. So that's going to close off our end. So pull it through some stitches to kind of make that a little bit tighter right there. So now you can either weave into here and tie it off, or you can go inside, pull it through to the inside and do it there. I've actually found that it works well just putting it here, and it's not that noticeable. So I pulled it through a couple stitches. Now I'm just going to, oh sorry, it went out of focus. There we go. Just going to weave that in and go back over one stitch and then back through. I just find this a lot easier than having to turn the whole stocking inside out. And there's the end of our toe. So now when our stocking lays flat, so just take where your 2 points of your toe are, flatten that out, make sure your heel is flattened. So there's our foot, and there is the rest of our stocking. You could block this if you want to. I have never really found a reason to need to block it. It actually holds up, you know, it's a stiff enough fabric that I can pretty much manipulate it exactly where I want it, and then it'll stay. Put up our little stocking there. So now only one thing left to do, and that is to make our hanger. So I'm going to take the main color, and we are going to, I'm trying to move a few things out of the way here. Okay. I'm going to chain 14. Okay, single crochet in the second chain from the hook, and single crochet in each remaining chain. All the way down to the end. And since I still have a long tail here, I'm just going to cut a short tail. If you did not have a long tail, then you could leave a longer tail here. But since I still have that one, I don't need that. And I'm going to actually weave these in so that they're out of my way. I'm just going to run them right back up. And this is going to be getting stitched down here, which is going to kind of lock that in. So I'm not worried about coming back again on it. I just want to make sure it's not going to unravel. Plus I just put two in the same spot, which means they're even tighter in there. Clip that off. Okay, so there is, that little thing is our hanger. So we're going to come right down here, and we are going to just loop this like that, create a little loop, so overlap it and lay it right here on the back. You can see where our seam was. We're just going to lay it right over the seam, and we're going to come up through, and we're just going to stitch this down. And I kind of go around the whole edge. I also go around the center. I myself know that we put a lot of weight into our stockings. I completely pack them full. There's usually at least an apple and an orange and who knows what else. I have it so full that stuff is sticking out of the top. Can't help myself. I love doing the stockings. So I put quite a few stitches around this. You could make this hanger longer if you want to. I think this is long enough. The longer you do it, it's probably going to pull more on it. And I mean, this is big enough my thumb fits into it, which is going to fit over any size hook really you have. So I went all the way around the edge here, and I'm back over to here. So now I'm going to come and stitch some of this down too. Just make sure it's nice and tacked down, and you're probably going to see some of this thread on the back side, but at this point that is okay. Now you can go back down here to the base, and you can do one more thing if you want to help keep this all nice and tight, and that is you can go over this end, which will just make it flatten down this bit here. And you do not have to do this. It just helps make it a little bit smoother. Okay, I'm going to pull that up to there. So here's what the back looks like, which is not that bad. But now there's one more thing that I like to do. So I had these buttons made, little wood buttons. So when I'm making this for a family member, I don't do it on an order, but when I make it for a family member, I like to put these little buttons on it. Let's see, that needle should fit through there. Yep, same needle I used on the Jingle Bells. So I'm just going to take my yarn, see if I can get that through there. And I take this little button, I put it right there over that little mess we just made. Put it right there, and it's not going to have any weight on it, it's just for decoration, so I'm going to do the simple X onto it. There we go. And back down. So, just like that. And now I can go ahead and weave this end in. Trim this off. And our stocking is done. So I know I keep putting it sideways, but it fits into the screen a little bit better. And there is our completed stocking with its little hanger. So I think it came out really cute. And here you can see how the stocking looks if you just do it plain, which I think is still really cute even that way. And then you could do something three-dimensional onto it. You could leave it like this, and you could do this even more simply. You could do like the white and then do, say, the beige, and then do a white strip here, and then do the beige with the triangles, and then do this white with the beige. And I mean, so you could do it very simply and still have a really stunning look to it. But I do really like how this has more of that vintage stocking look like the knit ones did. So I hope you like how this came out. I think it came out really nicely. And I love the fact that you could stick something into that little stocking too if you wanted to. So I have the pattern on Ravelry. Like I said, I will try to update it with this chart if you're wanting to do this chart. And I will link the pattern down below. I do plan on within the next week or two, I will have the vintage knit one I will be doing just like this. And words. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Please make sure and like and subscribe and do all those YouTube-y things, because it really does help. And if you have any questions about this pattern, you can put them below. My email is also down below in the description, so you can always feel free to email me and ask me any questions. And I hope you enjoy this Christmas in July, and we'll see you all again soon. Bye.